Test, test. Oh, yay, I can do it.
Cha-ching.
There we go. I'm telling you, I'm like an old person. I can't figure this stuff out, but I know
Oh,
this is what the kids watch. So I'm like, okay, I've got to utilize it as, go with where they're at. So
right. Now, I'm just curious, why can't I get that on my computer?
I don't know.
Let me go.
Come back, friends. We're not starting till 2, but I see a lot of you joining. So hold off for 5.
Live video ended. No, it hasn't.
Well, I ended the last one. I don't know if it's picking that up.
Let me. Well, that's me. Let me hang up here and try to go on my computer one more time.
Okay, sounds good. Do you want me to just stay in line?
Yeah, stay on.
Okay.
Let me hang up here and try to go on my computer.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so folks who are signing on, I'm just kind of letting you know what's going on. If you want to wait, that's totally cool, but I am going to restart the live, I think. Simply, Joey's trying to figure out if computer works or not. So just hold on. We started a little early just for tech check, and, this is new to all of us, so we're just working through it. All right. So I see you. Let me try, Joey, to connect. Oh, here we go.
It'll have to be on my phone.
Okay. Like I said, I'm learning every day. Everybody else.
I've never done Instagram Live, I don't think.
Well, welcome. Welcome to the Instagram Live. This is how the students roll these days.
Well, that's cool.
This is their platform that they like. No longer Facebook.
Yeah, I know. That's for the old folks, right?
Apparently. And it's hard to get them on like a Zoom or anything. I think this is just very accessible for them. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, because Zoom, I've tried, Facebook Messenger has a great interface. I mean, it can do up to 8 people. So I've been like doing video chats with friends on Facebook. It works pretty well.
Oh, that's very cool.
And Zoom, you have to download something, I think.
It's a whole app. We're all teaching through it. It's got its challenges, but I think this is an easy, like, hey, I'm on my phone, I can pop on and watch.
Right, yeah.
And so yeah, but cool. How are you?
I'm pretty well. How you doing?
Hey. Here we are.
Yeah, I've been keeping busy with many COVID projects.
Yeah, I can imagine.
One of which is cleaning up my parents' garage.
I have seen pictures, but hey, that's a good thing.
Whoop.
Sometimes you find gems.
Okay, you're on.
All right, cool. All right, so I have a bunch of people who are signing on here, so I'm going to give them a minute to just join the Instagram Live, and hopefully, if I cut out or something, we call that the country internet problems.
Yeah.
So go with it.
Yeah. I'll
Okay.
keep talking.
I know. Well, you're awesome. So for those of you who are logging on, I'm really excited to have Joey Pero with us here today for our third career chat of the quarantine event. And I'm really excited to see so many students and parents of students and alumni of Batavia High School. Megan Hay or Buckley is on here.
Really?
Yep, she is joining in. So hello to you all. Hopefully, my students, I have a bunch of your questions that you pre-sent to me. Hi, and love for my parents. They are tech experts. That's cool. I have a bunch of pre-questions that students have sent to me, but again, feel free to write them in the comments. And as we're chatting, Joey, hopefully you're willing to answer those for them.
I am an open book today for y'all.
Oh, you're the best. So, for those of you who don't know, I went to high school with Joey, and then later on we bumped into each other when we were both doing collegiate studies randomly, and it's been really great watching you and your you for years. I have like old newspaper clippings of you that they had in a folder that I came across when I was doing a little digging through things at my house. But it's just been really exciting to watch everything happen for you. And so I'm hoping you can share kind of some of that journey and story and the perseverance it needed to get where you are today.
Yeah, well, it was a lot of years of ramen noodles, and in the back of my head, there was no other option.
Mm-hmm.
There was pursuing this career, and not just music, but acting and art, and uh, probably before your time, but I had done all the plays at Jackson School.
Mm-hmm.
I had done stuff in high school. Some of the acting stuff in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't necessarily have to be just music, but for me, it was just in the arts was where I belonged, and there was, like I said, there was really no other option. In the back of my head, you know, a lot of people say that indecision is the key to flexibility, but I didn't have that flexibility in my head. It was always, what's the next thing? And I didn't know what the next thing was. I had uh, I had left Juilliard after 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a whole catastrophe, a horrible thing, and ended up going to Boston and studying with a teacher I really, really wanted to study with. He's a fantastic trumpet player and principal of the Boston Symphony. And every step just kind of fell into place. I mean, the journey, you have to keep your eyes and ears open for opportunity. Um, I don't mean to sound too brash, but uh, a, a a mentor of mine once told me that opportunity is like a fart. Sometimes you smell it and sometimes you don't. So
Very
you have to keep your eyes and ears open for opportunity, and sometimes that calls for displacement of your life.
true.
But I've lived in New York, Boston, Jersey City, Las Vegas, Santa Clara, California, all these places, and it's just where music and art took me. So
Sure.
I was never afraid to take a leap, and just because I had to uproot my life and move to a different city, that was, well, I'll make some new friends and keep in touch with other. Back then, you had to write,
Right.
and
Right.
just in the dawn of email,
Sure.
but you could keep in touch with people. So I was never afraid to move or uproot my life. I've had various relationships in my life, but nothing that would keep me away from pursuing a great opportunity. And not all of them were great, but you throw darts at a dartboard, one of them's going to stick.
For sure, for sure. And so after New England Conservatory, where did you go first? Where did you end up?
After New England,
Mm-hmm.
uh, after New England, I had one of those opportunities that didn't quite work out. I moved to the Bay Area in California, and
Okay.
they were starting a new casting for the show Blast. Do you remember Blast?
Yeah, it was the like drum line, right?
Yeah, it was like Drumline, and they were doing Broadway shows and touring in Japan. And
Oh wow, okay.
I had to lose some weight to be and physically fit enough to do the show because it was very demanding. And it ended up, some things fell through. I didn't end up getting the job, but I made a lot of good friends out in California, a lot of good connections.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of came back a little bit with my tail between my legs when I came back to Batavia after that. Having a great experience, though. And that's when I had an amazing opportunity come up with touring with Maynard Ferguson,
Yeah,
and one of the last incarnations of his Big Bop Nouveau band. That was 2004, 2005.
yeah, that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of your students know Maynard Ferguson, but I had wore out the grooves in his record when I was growing up and learning to play the trumpet. I'd play along, you know, and it was pretty cool. It was to work with someone that you idolize for so many years is a blessing and quite an experience. So I did that for about a year. And then I came home from tour, and again, I was like, "What am I going to do now?" I'm in Buffalo, Batavia, New York. So I ended up getting a job working for Leah Honda on Transit Road in Buffalo. So I was selling Honda automobiles to make ends meet there when I got off tour,
Mm-hmm.
and I was an okay car salesman. You
I
know,
bet
I
you were.
I sold some cars. I was a little too honest with the people when they were upside down on their car. My manager didn't like that.
I'm sure.
But I learned a lot, and I'll tell you what, everyone would say, "Oh, geez, you just toured with Maynard Ferguson. Now you're working at an auto dealership." Well, I never felt that way. I took experience and knowledge from that industry
Mm-hmm.
that I learned and applied it to my music industry. Now, in the back of my head, I didn't say I was going to be a car salesman forever. I was still knew I was supposed to be an artist in the back of my head.
Sure.
But when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, and I took that experience and basically applied it to my life. And eventually, at the end of that year, 2005 or six, I said, "Well, I have to get back to the city. There's no music going on in this area."
Sure.
So I moved to a small town in New Jersey, knowing I was closer to New York City, going back to New York City.
Yep.
And I'd worked for the inter-schools orchestras there and was gigging and working with some drum and bugle corps. So I made some way there, and it got me back to the city. And I was doing pretty well there. I secured funding to release a record,
Yeah.
which was a lot more expensive back then, believe it or not.
Really.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, a side note, I'm setting up a recording area here at my house in Batavia, and because I'm probably going to be here through the summer, most
Sure.
likely. But the technology now, what we can do at home recording wise, is better than they had in the studio 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
It's unbelievable. So, if you have any interest in recording projects, you get a decent mic and can get a decent sound on that mic. It's as good as being in a studio. So I made a record in 2008, and it garnered some pretty good success and high praise. I was very fortunate that my first time out was met so well by the community.
Yep.
And kind of introduced me to the community as well. Having had that Maynard Ferguson experience brought some fans and friends along for the ride. And so then I started doing shows in New York City with my band and playing the record. And then the crash of 0809 happened, and all my bookings dried up. And again, I was left being like, "Oh God, now what do I do? What's my next move?" And an opportunity arose in Las Vegas that didn't end up panning out, but I ended up living there and getting involved in the community and having a band there and having a lot of success in Las Vegas. And living in Las Vegas ultimately led me to Bandstand.
Right.
Because those guys, Richard and Rob, lived in Vegas and had seen me perform. Because I did community events, I did the Composer Showcase in Las Vegas, and so then I auditioned for. They asked me to audition for Bandstand, and I did. And well, that's kind of history, but we did a workshop. We did the Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey, and waiting to go to Broadway could take years. So I ended up touring with Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. I had a friend that was involved with Bandstand that said, "We need a trumpet player." So again, working every angle. And so I did that. I subbed on American in Paris and Cagney and Paramore and all these shows on Broadway, and was getting involved in the scene, getting more well known. It's funny talking about your life events.
It's
To start to recall how it all happened.
It's
It's
amazing.
nice to vocalize it. It's nice to vocalize it. But
Yeah, yeah. And it's great for us to hear
yeah,
because I think
so
that
bandstand happened, and that was a couple years later, and so that was an incredible experience. Although I broke my leg the night before we started, which was crazy. I got hit by a car in New York. I was I was crossing with the walk sign kids.
that's right. There you go. You just
I was, and someone just made a fast turn, and man, I was flat on my back and out for 4 months. But I got back in the show, made a story out of it, made the best I could,
yeah.
and the community, the Broadway community, was very kind with welcoming me to showbiz in that way. And after that, I got called to do My Fair Lady as a full-time job. We played in Lincoln Center, so I did that for almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great job, great people, great orchestra. We got nominated for a Grammy
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
album. Bandstand got a Tony for choreography.
Yes.
So unfortunately, My Fair Lady closed, and almost immediately, actually overlapping, I got a call to do Jesus Christ Superstar. They
Right.
called and said, I think we're running into 2020. I don't think I. And a week later, they announced we were closing. I got on the phone so quickly. I said, "Is that job still available? I don't want to be unemployed."
Right.
So, yeah. So that's kind of leads us up to this crazy COVID thing.
Right.
So we're here. We are.
Here we
I,
are.
I guess in a nutshell, that's my story from when I really started getting serious and when we were in college together there in Boston.
Yeah, but what a great story. I
Yeah,
mean, you overcame a lot
crazy.
of hurdles. I think it's great to hear for the students that you should stick to what you love doing, and there might be some barriers in your way at times, but if it's really what you have passion about, nothing can. I mean, just keep pushing.
Well, I'm a firm believer anything worth doing is difficult, and I do feel badly for anyone, and this is not really aimed at your
Yeah,
students, but throughout your life, throughout anybody's life, I feel bad for anyone that isn't obsessed about something at one time or another, whether it's music or whether it's archaeology or whether it's something that you form a little bit of an obsession. I think that's a healthy thing, and that kind of brings out what you're passionate about. And sometimes people have a difficult time quantifying what their gift is or what they want. Well, usually it has to do with, for me, it has to do with that obsession,
sure.
and that is Pepe's in. Pepe's in the cast of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, awesome.
He's an understudy for Judas and Jesus.
Oh my goodness.
Ditto,
There you go.
Pepe. Ditto.
Challenge.
But yeah, that obsession is very revealing in our lives, and I think the more we pay attention to that, the better direction we have.
For sure.
So I encourage all your students to not ignore their obsessions, even if it's video games.
Sure.
If you become obsessed, miss you too, Pepe. Becoming obsessed with something, I know people that were obsessed with video games that now program video games.
Sure. Exactly.
So nothing is impossible, and if you can dream it, you can have it.
Yeah. 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 That's great advice. Um, so I have a few questions that students sent in. So I'm going to ask those first, and then if anybody wants to drop questions in, please do so.
Nothing embarrassing now.
Yeah, nothing embarrassing. Nothing embarrassing. I don't know. Anything embarrassing. Let's see. One question was, if you could pick your favorite experience in your career up to this point, what would it be and why?
Oh,
Which is such a hard question.
it is because I typically don't. judge things as far as, but there are highlights. Definitely my first day getting back to bandstand on Broadway was incredible.
Sure. Well, you performed
Uh,
Tonys, did you not?
what's that?
You performed on the Tony Awards?
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty cool. But that was,
Yeah.
television makes it look glamorous, but
Yeah, more exciting.
it was like Fast and Furious, get in, get out. So
Right.
I didn't have time to enjoy the moment
Sure.
as much. But I do
Sure.
remember being on the bus when they announced that we won the Tony. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
great.
I one of the other highlights was I got asked to play Barack Obama's first inauguration, and that was pretty cool. I did the mayor's ball, and I did the it was in the, where the heck was it? The Smithsonian Castle. I played for the governor's gubernatorial ball.
Okay.
So I met Hillary Clinton and all these people there, and that was a pretty good. I don't these your students were probably wee tots back then, but
Yeah.
remember when he got elected, and
Oh,
this was
yeah.
after 9/11 and all that had kind of subsided, and a new face emerged, and it was just a great feeling. No matter what your political beliefs are,
Right.
it was an honor to play for that event. And I had done the parade for George Bush in 2001 with the Empire Statesman. But I remember doing Barack Obama's inauguration, and that was definitely a highlight. And just, I felt patriotism, and it was pretty incredible to do that as well. That's another highlight for sure. And getting the call to tour with Maynard and playing with him.
Yeah, that's got to be really cool to play with your idol, basically.
I'd say.
Yeah, right.
I'd say. And then, he was an old man at that time, so it was part of the last incarnation of his Big Bop Nouveau band. So that was,
Sure. I
you know,
encourage. There's several trumpet and brass students on this feed right now. I encourage you to go and listen to him,
oh,
Maynard.
yeah, I'm very easy to find on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay. What kind of music is your favorite to perform? I guess style.
I can answer that. And when I create something, when I have a piece that I've written and really spent time crafting the music and the lyric, or if it's just an instrumental,
Sure.
uh, I write in the more rock or pop sense.
Hmm.
That's how my style of writing is. So when that all comes together and I perform and I see the reaction from the crowd that I expected in my head, there's nothing can beat that experience, and that's something you can repeat over and over again if you keep creating.
Sure.
It's affirming, and it's so exciting.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Um, okay, so bandstand. So while I got to see Bandstand, which I feel so lucky to have been able to do that in New York City live. I have a lot of students who have gotten to see it when it was playing at the movie theaters, and then now Playbill Street. I mean, it's just everywhere. Bandstand is popping up everywhere. It's like having this life that is extending way past its Broadway run, and I mean, it's so amazing. But what do you think was so special about the show Bandstand, and why do you think it's continuing to have this life and have this effect on so
That's a
many
great question. That's a
audience?
great question. Because obviously, we didn't run for years on Broadway,
Right.
and it was a hit with the youth. We didn't understand why the youth is in particular grabbed onto this story and show,
Mm-hmm.
and became such super fans, almost like a cult following,
Sure.
like Rocky Horror became. It wasn't a big hit in the theaters, but it became a cult classic, and as well as I how big of a thing. Even your students probably know what it is, and
For sure.
yeah. Uh, I think it's the honesty. I think it's the man always trying to push us down. I think everyone has a sense of that in the world, even younger people. I think younger people can definitely relate to always trying to overcome obstacles, and then when you do that, you have another one to overcome. So I just think I think people resonated with that story, and they, on top of that, um, mirroring our lives today, those World War II vets had it tough. I mean, my grandfather, who I never met, he passed away before I was born, came back from the war in Germany as a medic, and he was never the same man.
No, not at all.
You
Not
know, in the way that you come from a small town and then you go over and see the horrors of war, and then you're expected to just come back into society and be normal. You know, so I think that young people seeing the story for what it is, conceptualizing what these folks went through,
mhm.
and kind of bringing that into their lives a little bit, and perhaps being able to equate, maybe not as seriously, but being able to equate the injustices that are dealt us in the world our without our hand being involved in it.
For sure.
I
One,
think that I think that I think that's why people really, obviously Corey and Laura are fantastic,
sure.
looking and singing and acting.
All of the
So I
above.
think that didn't hurt.
No, of
But
course.
I just thought that the people I see on the fan board sometimes people talking about things in the story that I had never even thought of, like little cross sections, little key elements.
Sure.
Uh, so I think and it was written with such depth as well. I think they didn't cut corners with the story.
Not at all. Not at
So
all.
I think that's why people really like it. I think that's why it's going to live for a long time, and perhaps would get a revival on Broadway someday.
That'd be great. I was really taken aback as to how interesting my experience was watching it during Playbill,
Uh huh.
because it was so unique. I mean, I live was amazing. Live theater for me is the best thing in the world. But it was a really unique take watching the different angles and what they decided to focus on, and feeling like I was just a little closer
Yeah.
to everybody. It was just a unique experience for me, having already seen the show and loving it. But really, really neat. You almost felt like you were in the director's head a little bit.
Yeah. And so that was by design, right? The director directed those shots. And when live theater happens, or even like in a football game or something like that, so much is going on. Sometimes you miss
Right.
several elements that so the movie offered an opportunity to illustrate certain elements that wanted to be brought out of the texture, kind of like raising the volume on an instrument in a recording.
Sure. One, well, two, I guess two last bandstand questions. So one thing that I just wanted to bring attention to was, again, when I was so grateful to see when you were in bandstand, and the wall that was covered with pictures of veterans,
Hmm.
and that and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you dedicated a show to each. Can you speak a little bit about that, and kind of how, I mean, I, as an actor, as a performer, I can imagine that if you do that before a performance, it's going to change how you feel as you
Yeah,
walk
absolutely.
on stage.
Well, when you're in show business, or if you're playing a show, you do the same thing over and over again. You say the same lines, you hit the same spots, and it can become daunting if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a little bit of an exercise in engagement. And when we circled up before the show, we would name a couple of people, some people that had written in, some people that were family or friends of cast, or just fans that had written in, and we would tell their story, where they served, what years, not necessarily just World War II, but all wars.
Mm-hmm.
And we would take a moment, breathe together, and it would kind of remind us why we were there and put us in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So we would do that, and they ended up doing that on the tour as well.
Oh, they did.
They
Okay.
continued that tradition when they did the tour.
Awesome.
And so that was an exercise in being present, and most of the time, majority of the time, it would feel like a new show every time.
That's amazing. Really is amazing.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Let's see here. One of my students asked, what was it like acting in a show while also playing your instrument during it? What challenges did that create, or did it create any?
Well, I think I mean it was cool to bring both talents in.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I majority of the time I felt like my character was playing the trumpet, so I didn't separate the two in my head. I didn't feel like there was the acting track and also I had to play the trumpet. I just basically plowed through,
Yeah,
and you know that I come out. My first scene is I'm a waiter, but then when I come out as Nick, I play this trumpet note, and I'm in the studio teaching a trumpet in my head. So playing the trumpet was just I've done that so much it's almost like second nature to me.
sure.
So that was the easy part. That
Very
was the easy part to me. Yeah.
for you, but not for some of your castmates, right? Because some of them, I mean, Corey Cott, he wasn't a pianist,
Right.
correct? So
Well,
they had,
that's why we fit together as a group so well, and why there was such dynamic because some people were instrumentalists first
mm-hmm,
and actors secondary, and some people were actors primarily and instrumentalists secondary. So we helped each other. We
sure.
we fit in the puzzle like that, and the casting was done that way for a reason.
Mm-hmm,
They casted us with that intention that we would be in the trenches, so to speak, together and be able to help. You know, I helped Jeff Packard tremendously with the trombone. He helped me tremendously with acting and delivery.
sure,
We had a couple scenes together, and his direction helped me nail the scene, you know, as best as I could.
sure, sure. But
So
as
that was by design. That was by design. That was, you know, that was really good casting.
it was
I
incredible.
gotta admit,
It
I
was,
learned a lot from that.
I mean, as somebody who's seen tons of theater and theater where there's been performers on stage, I mean, honestly, the cohesiveness of the band within Bandstand was so natural. It felt like it was just a band you were going to see perform. I would
Right.
have never guessed, that Jeff Packard was not a trombonist. I mean,
He would love you so much for
you were,
saying that.
you were a bit of a standout. But he sounded great. He really did. Or the bassist,
Brandon, yeah.
phenomenal. And I had a few students who actually went to see you in Buffalo when you were touring with the Donny Nova band for those
Uh-huh.
concerts. And I mean, they would not have known that.
Yeah. So for your students, I don't know if they know, after the show closed, the Donny Nova band, which is the name of the band in the show, ended up having a life outside of Broadway, and we would do shows at various places that hired us. We played a show in Vegas, we played a show in Buffalo, we played a show in, I don't remember, at New York City at Birdland.
Sure.
Um, so we actually, this world that was this false world or fictional world that was created actually came to life outside, and the Donny Nova band performed
It's
outside of the show, which is cool, you know.
it's so cool. And I don't know that that's ever happened before like that.
Not that I know of. Maybe a couple times,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, no, very, very, very cool. Brought a little bit of bandstand to a lot of people that maybe didn't get to see the show.
yeah, yeah. And we played music from the show and other music too.
Oh yeah, here we go, Katie. I saw you in Buffalo. Absolutely amazing. Bandstand is my favorite show.
Oh, thank you, Katie.
She's at Fredonia right now as a music ed major voice, and I think she might have met you and kind of like waited around up there.
Okay, yeah, we were very good with that.
You were
We didn't throw anyone out. We made sure everyone that came to support us, we gave them the time of day, and even if we were tired, it didn't matter. We talked with everybody.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
really awesome.
Katie, are you familiar with any of the jazz program there at Fredonia. I was curious if Bruce Johnstone is still teaching there.
Let's see if she responds.
He's another Maynard Ferguson alumni,
Oh, okay.
but he's an older guy, but
Educator at Fredonia.
yeah, he's been teaching at Fredonia for, oh man, forever.
Okay. Well, maybe
I'm curious.
hopefully she'll respond, and I'll go on with another question. So a lot of my students are also Matt Nordhausen's students.
Okay.
And are very involved in marching band.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to your experience in that world, the drum and bugle corps and that whole thing?
Yeah, my father got involved in drum and bugle corps in the early 1960s, when he was a teenager, and had done it into his 20s, and he was one of the ones that started up Mighty St. Joe's Alumni Corps, which used to rehearse at Leroy for years, since 1990. And basically, that's how I got involved by proxy and interest in playing music. I had started on French horn in elementary school, and I was horrible at it. But I loved brass, and I loved the sound, and I ended up starting with a group. Harold McJury?
Oh yeah.
So he had a little drum corps here called Genesee Quest in the early 90s, and I was marching with that organization, but also learning to play at the same time. I was, just starting trumpet. And so that kind of led me down the rabbit hole of other groups and organizations, and I did some of the mini corps, and I left drum corps for a while when I was in my later teens and was serious about trumpet, and I was studying classical.
Yep.
And then we love Mighty St. Joe's. Yeah. Da, 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 da. So so I ended up doing Empire Statesman. That's where I met Matt.
Right.
Mr. Nordhausen, sorry.
Right. Okay.
And it was very cool. Marching band is my absolute favorite activity. It definitely saved me from some dark moments, and very fun. Yeah, right. So coming together with a group, it taught me camaraderie. It taught me about all coming together for a common cause. An 8 to 10 minute show.
Oh, Bruce wasn't at Fredonia when I was there, but in 2016 they did a showcase.
Yeah, he's a bad Barry sax player, man. Yeah, so drum corps taught me a lot, and I ended up making a little bit of cash when I was younger by arranging and teaching some groups. I've done so many, it's unbelievable. I was going through my all my arrangements I did for drum corps, and I did stuff I forgot I even wrote.
Oh no.
Yeah, so marching band and drum corps was a big, and is still a big influence on my life, and it's a little tough. It's a little tough to make a living at it.
Oh, sure.
But certainly a sense of community, and there's nothing better than when I see, it started to rain.
Of course it
is. Bringing people together, and something special about Empire Statesman to me was, most of the people are amateur, and they come together. They work it out with their jobs to come do weekends in the summer, and they perform and put on a show, and people from all walks of life. I mean, we had a judge from Pennsylvania, up to firemen, so it's cool from all walks of life, people that have music and art and marching and the marching arts in their heart, that come together to do that. And it doesn't matter about the money at that point. You can't put a price tag on that experience. It's incredible.
Awesome. Let's see here. Okay, this is one of our freshman trumpet players asks, what is your favorite method book and warm-ups to do?
Oh, great question. Great question. Well, they call the Arbin's book the Bible of the trumpet. So you've got to get one of those. I'm sure you can go on Amazon and get one if you don't already have one. But the Arbin's book is revered as the pinnacle of technique for brass and trumpet. And alongside exercises written in there, there are also some things explaining of technique and tonguing and multiple tonguing and lyrical playing. You have the PDF for it. Okay, even better. Look at that.
That's
2020, baby. But that's when I use, and I think once you master some of those easier exercises, you can go through the book and then start expanding your library to Brandt, Brandt, Charlier. Don't ask me to spell that, but they have beautiful etudes in there. Charlier, Charlier, French. Those are some of the ones that I used in college, and they'll help with not only lyrical playing but technique as well.
awesome. Very cool. Okay, another brass student wants to know, what advice would you give regarding breath control?
Breath control. Well, the majority of people I see playing the trumpet aren't taking in enough air, and it's got to be air expansion has to be natural, not forced. But in general, when you take a breath, you have to train your body to start taking more air than you initially think. Now, some people I've noticed do that naturally. They just have a big inhale. But others, kind of breathe a little more shallowly. Is that a word?
Sure.
Neogelism. So yeah, their tendency is to breathe a little more shallow.
Yeah.
So I would say, make sure you're breathing from the bottom, and if you look at yourself in a mirror and kind of go sideways, your belly should go out first, and you want to minimize your chest going up, because that's tension in your body up in your chest. So the lungs should expand like this, like a winging motion from your lungs, and that'll make your belly go out a little bit. So maybe I do this when I was younger. I used to put my tongue on the top of my teeth and breathe air in through the sides. That's a good visual. So breath control, yeah, and it gets better. You train your body to get better at it. It's not like it's like a muscle you can use. Your diaphragm gets stronger.
Yeah. And the student who asked that is also a vocal student of mine. And I try to explain to them that there isn't all that much difference between the two in regards to breath support.
Yeah. Well, actually, all my trumpet teachers said emulate vocalists.
Oh, well.
I remember one of my mentors told me to get all kinds of CDs on Maria Callas singing opera.
Yes.
And try to mimic your trumpet sound after that. And I always wanted to be more and more vocal. I know that trumpet offers technique that vocals necessarily don't in the fast and rapid passages. But definitely when I play lyrically, I try my best to emulate a great vocalist, like a beautiful singer who can really fill up a room and do soft and loud. Just to add on to some technique, in my opinion, what makes someone want to listen to an instrumentalist or a vocalist? Well, I think it's range, dynamic contrast, cleanliness, attacks, releases. So all those things need to be in the wheelhouse for the shed for us practicing.
For sure.
But yeah, but listen to the greats and notice how soft and how loud they can be. How they can really be more expressive.
There you go. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, another question. Do you get nervous still? And when you did get nervous, if you did get nervous ever, how did you overcome it?
Yes, I think if you care about anything, you're gonna feel nerves or jumpiness. But it's really a mental game, because it's okay to be nervous, but if it makes you buckle or fold, then it becomes an issue.
Right.
So there's two reasons why we get nervous. There are two reasons. One, you're not prepared. That's the easiest one to remedy. If you're underprepared and you don't know what you're doing in front of people, you're gonna be nervous. Number two reason why we get performance anxiety is that we're thinking of something other than making music in the moment at that exact same time. So how many people have done this? You start playing in front of people, you miss a note, you start thinking about what the people thought about you missing that note, and by the time you get your head around yourself, you've missed 10 other notes.
That's right.
So that's an example of training your mind and being involved in the process of making music, not worrying about the product because that's in the past and you can do nothing about that. So process and product are two major things. So it's a mental exercise to stay engaged. So you think about the connection of notes. You think about the dynamics. You think about all the things that go into what you've rehearsed and performing to perform. And if you find your mind wandering, you'll most likely get a case of performance anxiety. If you check out mentally and you're not staying at that exact moment, you're probably going to have a little performance anxiety. And if you make a mistake, it can all go south. I've been there.
Sure.
I'll never forget, I was on live TV doing the national anthem and the Canadian national anthem. And I got to the end of the Canadian national anthem's first verse, and I went blank. And then all of a sudden, I started thinking about the cameras and all the people watching on live television. And so I like froze for a moment, and I had to shake it off, and I started over.
Oh, that's awesome, though. That would be my advice. No.
At the time, it was the best I could do. Thank God my friends to the north who saw that gave me a pass on it.
Oh no.
I'll never forget it. Went Bow Canada, ba da 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 da. Blank. And I said the only way I'm gonna recoup is to start over again and stay in the moment.
Wi-Fi.
Forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, no. So I think no, that's great. That's really good advice about staying in the moment. I always and I don't know if you agree with this, but I always tell my kids too, if they're practicing and they're really practicing, and that muscle memory comes into play, that when you get to your performance, it should just happen if you're in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're not practicing in performance.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's imperative to practicing, because I know people that spend hours and hours and hours practicing something, but they're just going through motion. They're not using their gray matter up here. And I think that, I agree with you 100%. But the gray matter is where what separates just doing it and actually processing it and having cerebrating everything.
Right.
So yeah, and I would implore all your students to practice good mental practice, and you got to talk to yourself and say, I have to do this and this, and be prepared mentally. The power of the mind. I mean, more than half of our lives are spent unlocking the power of our minds. Yeah. It's unbelievable. And I'm almost 40, and I'm still doing that.
I don't believe that.
Bye, Megan. Megan. Megan's here.
Bye, Megan.
Tell your parents I said hello.
Yeah.
I just found a great video of her dad helping out with one of our school shows.
Oh my!
Send it to her.
That's awesome. Yes.
I know. Me too. We don't know what's going on. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
They were saying we were going to go back in for Tampa, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
No, no. I know.
It's a big conundrum.
It really is. And but one thing that I have to say, and I've been saying this to everybody who's working in the arts that I'm connected with, like, I'm really impressed with what everybody is putting out right now in
Yeah.
this gap time. At first it must have been so difficult to hear, like, I'm sorry, but this project I'm working on is over as of today, right now. And then what do you do with that? And it's just really inspiring to see artists turn around and turn it into a positive and create music and create art and get it out to people.
Well, that's why art and music has lasted so long, because it pulls us through difficult times throughout history.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I remember watching a thing the other day about Franklin Delano Roosevelt. When he got elected, they were coming out of a very dark time, and they were playing "Happy Days Are Here Again." And music has lifted people up throughout history during times of grief, times of trouble.
Truly.
So
Truly.
I think it's only natural now with it's different than 20 years ago. With the technology we have now, it's so easy to be out there and to share. So
Yeah,
we're at a very cool time, albeit difficult right now, but
for sure.
technologically it allows us to be so globalized
For
and
sure.
share.
So, are you going to work on a new record?
I have been for a long
Have you?
time.
Have you? Because I have the first one, and
Yeah.
it's
Well,
really, it's eclectic, Joey. Like, every piece is a little different, which I love.
cool. Thank you. You can
Yeah.
listen to it free on YouTube.
Okay, there you go, kids.
I
Go.
don't get any money because someone posted it, but I guess I could complain. But
Yeah.
I'm not Lady Gaga, so I'm just happy people are listening to it.
And then you also did a single with Laura Osnos.
Yep, that was for Christmas a couple years ago. I'm gonna release a couple singles, and I've been working on a new record, but it couldn't come in under the last one, so it's why it takes so long. And I'm funding it myself. It's a passion project, so
Yep.
and it's actually part of a bigger story that maybe we'll talk about off camera.
Sounds good.
But I have some plans for the future for the music and the story.
Oh,
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
nudge, nudge. I want to know more, but we can later. Um, really, if you could pick one word of advice for students coming out of high school right now, both as performers and maybe not, although we have quite a few who are looking to go into some form of the arts, what would you say to them?
Well, first off, if you're not going into the arts, that's okay. Music will always be a part of your life if you choose. I mean, I've seen people pick up their instruments or singing after years. I've seen people pick up instruments after 20 years of not playing, or 30 years of not playing. So that's number one. The memories you'll have of high school and the musical ensembles you've been in, you can't buy that. I will say some of advice. I'll say always keep your eyes and ears open for opportunity. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, you have to be proactive and aware of your surroundings and aware of opportunities. And don't be afraid to take some chances. It's okay to take chances and fail. It's okay. And I know at 18 or 19 years old, failing is possibly the worst thing in your mind, but you get other chances. Youth allows people more opportunities to make mistakes. I found that out. As you get older, you don't have as many opportunities to make mistakes because there's lot more riding on it, on your life. But I would say also follow your dreams. Don't worry about dreaming too big. Life will tell you what's right. Don't be, of course, don't be delusional about things. Don't think you're going to be, if I thought I was going to be Michael Jackson, I'd be nuts, because I'm not, and I know that.
Sure.
I'm a trumpet player and an actor and a writer and an entertainer, but I'm not a Motown legend
For sure.
or a pop legend. And
And that's okay.
And that's okay. There's okay. I had aspirations of that at one time, and that fed my brain and fed my ambition. So that's okay. But know in the back of your head reality, and that's why it's important to have good friends and family, because they'll always be an honest sounding board to you. So I would say know who your friends are, listen to the right people. Uh, if you can dream it, you can have it, and yeah, always keep your eyes and ears open for opportunities that may be unexpected.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think the unexpected is the most interesting part of life. You know?
Certainly, I mean, if you would have asked me 8 years ago if I would have been involved in acting and playing on Broadway, I would have said no, no way.
Really,
I had no idea. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
really
It kind of came around later in life, from my earlier aspirations. So,
well.
uh,
If
I,
you asked me that I would have been teaching music in Leroy, I would have said probably. It's the
is
best.
it Leroy or Leroy? I've heard two.
Okay, so the people of Leroy call it Leroy, but I have a really hard time because phonetically speaking, it's a capital L and a little e and then a capital R.
Yeah,
So we're doing, IPA on that, it would be Leroy. But
Leroy. Yeah.
Roy, which sounds very fancy, but no, I'm very lucky to have ended up in Leroy, with awesome students and awesome colleagues, and I'm loving what I'm doing. And while I am not a Broadway performer, which initially is what I thought I was going to be, I have so much fulfillment in teaching my students about how awesome music, theater, and the arts are. So,
Well,
and
they are very lucky to have a teacher like you who's so passionate and well read and informed
well,
and
thank you.
hip. I mean, look at those glasses. Come on.
Also, you'll understand where I'm coming from, but these are like inspired by Patty Pacino.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Come on, look at.
I
No,
know, totally.
the kids know I have like a different pair of glasses for every mood.
Oh, okay.
It's my accessory. Tomorrow I might have red ones with eyelashes. You just don't know. So, yeah,
Cute.
so that's fun. But I really, anybody else have any questions at this point that you want to drop in the feed? You sent some really fantastic ones that I'm glad I was able to read
Yes.
off.
Great questions, guys. Great and gals. Great questions.
Super excited. I You are definitely someone I speak about often because I think it's really important for musicians, young musicians and artists in Western New York to understand that it doesn't matter where you come from. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I think they live in these small towns sometimes. They have this passion, they have this desire that you're talking about, and they think to themselves, I can't do that. I'm just from up here. But you can,
Michael Jackson was from Gary, Indiana,
there you go.
the armpit of the world.
Seriously, not a great place. Oh, we have a few questions here. What is the highest note you've ever hit?
He must be a trumpet player. He's got to be.
He is. How'd you know?
Well, if Connor, if you go to one of the best high notes I ever hit, go to YouTube and type in Joey Pero Define Gravity, and there's a high note at the end there.
Oh, so good.
E flat above double C. That's a pretty good one, and not a little mouse squeak. That's a good note. It's a good note.
I can attest to that. It's really good.
Oh, here's a great question. Were your parents supportive of your professional aspirations? Yes, they were. I can't believe I didn't mention them. I would be remiss without mentioning them, and they gave a lot. I come from a family that didn't have a lot of money, and they would make sure I had the money for private lessons when I was later in high school and was serious about it. And they come to everything. They've been there for every important moment and every important show of my life, and I'm lucky to have them. And um, they were, and I know that some parents kind of turned their nose at the arts, and as far as music as a career, not music in general, but music as a career. But my parents weren't, and through many years, like I said, of eating ramen noodles, they stood by me and said, "Well, just keep fighting the fight, keep fighting the fight, and keep seeing the end of the rainbow there."
For sure.
Yes, they were. My parents to this day are incredibly supportive, and I hope that in the rest of my life I can give back at least half of.
I'm sorry, guys. Try and log back on. Oh, jeez. Joey. Aha. Okay.
What happened?
See, we got talking, and then we ran out. This happened to me last week too. I was talking to an actor from the Metropolitan Opera, and we were just chatting, lots of great questions, and it shuts down.
What's the time limit?
Apparently, it's an hour,
Oh, wow.
and it's been an hour.
Okay.
We were testing, but really quick, I think Connor had another question before it kicked us off. I think he was asking what your favorite trumpet to play on is.
Oh, okay. Well, right now I play on a Yamaha LA custom model, which is modeled after Wayne Bergeron's horn. But I've played on many good trumpets. I have a couple that I've kept. One is a Bach Stradivarius, and another one is the Monette, the expensive, heavy one. I use that on some projects, depending on what it is. But yeah, I've used a couple trumpets. For me, it's more about the mouthpiece, because that's what takes it from your body to the horn.
Okay.
And I use a Monette B2 mouthpiece, which is like a 1 1/4 mouthpiece. Bach. But I wanted to thank your students for just asking such good questions and taking me down memory lane a little bit. And it was a pleasure to have this opportunity to talk to everyone. So thank you.
Thanks so much. This really, I mean, here in our quarantine, we're very limited in what we can do making music with our ensembles. It's just very challenging. And so we've kind of taken this different direction with the opportunity to talk to people who are in different fields now. So I can't thank you enough for your time. And Katie says, thank you so much for doing this. It's amazing hearing you talking about it.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you.
So, well, Joey, I hope isolation proves to continue to be comfortable for you and your family, and that you all remain safe and healthy. And hopefully when we break out of this, maybe I'll bump into you at some point, but probably with a mask on.
Probably. But let me tell you, I think we're due for an adult beverage when this flies over, because I'm probably going to be here for a while after the ban lifts.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm out here in my music studio, sitting here. So
awesome. Well, thank you again for having me. It's really been a joy talking to everyone, and thank you for those who logged on.
Yep.
And your great questions. And I wish the same what you just said. Be safe, make good decisions, practice your craft, and if anyone has any questions, I'm very accessible on either Facebook or Instagram. So please don't hesitate to reach out with a question or anything like that. But if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram at Joey Pero Music, and we'll stay in touch that way. I'm getting better at Instagram. I was a Facebooker for years, so it's taking a little getting used to. But please follow me on Instagram, and I'd love to keep in touch. And if you ever have any questions, reach out.
Thank you so much, Joey.
You're welcome, dear. Anytime.
Right. We'll see you soon.
Be well. Say hi to your husband for me.
Will do. Thanks so much.
All right. You're welcome. Take care.
Bye. All right, folks. So that was really awesome. It was great for me to connect with Joey and have that conversation. And your questions really were amazing. So I can't thank you enough for writing those ahead of time and also dropping into the comments and taking advantage of a really cool and wonderful opportunity. Like Joey said, follow him, Joey Pero Music, on Instagram. And if you did not get to log on today for whatever reason, working on other work, busy, I get it. This little chat will be on YouTube along with the other career chats each week. Again, on Sunday, I am going to have an alumni come on to chat, Erica Parker. She is in a really unique and very cool field currently. She's, I believe, down in the Carolinas. So we'll be talking with her. And then next week, I will release what our next career speaker is. So I can't thank you enough for all tuning in. And again, a special thank you to Joey Pero for answering all those questions and taking us through what was really an amazing journey for his career. I know only good things are to come. So have a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon.